are here today with the topic data management in medical research. So we all know that India is in a phase of transition to digital economy, and in personal life, professional life, especially after COVID, we are taking this transition in a very positive way. And the processing of personal data has already become omnipresent. The reality of digital environment today is that every single activity undertaken by an individual involves some sort of data transaction or the other. So what you like, what you eat, the way you function throughout the day, what you wear as wearable devices, what you choose to shop, everything is a data point. Further, the internet has given birth to entirely new markets dealing in the collection, organization, and processing of personal information. Either they are dealing with the data directly, or it is one of the critical components of their business model. For example, Uber, it is the world's largest taxi company. They own no vehicles. Facebook, most popular media owner, doesn't create its own content. Alibaba, most valuable retailer, has no inventory. And Airbnb, the world's largest accommodation provider, has no real estate of its own. And they are still multi-millionaire economies because they are thriving on data. Now, coming to India, India's potential to lead the world into a digital economy is based on certain specific strengths, which we know that boom in information technology, even in rural India, mobiles and internet has penetrated in today's date. Demographic dividend. Our young population, it's tech savvy, wants to use the internet, can handle internet in a very efficient way, and the need for empowerment. What we say, that those who have the information, they have the true power. So it is required that there is data-driven access to services and benefits, and India supports it. But the challenge is that India must find the right balance to take advantage of a data-driven ecosystem, but with certain reasonable restrictions. In view of that, Supreme Court of India, in its decision, has held privacy to be fundamental. So there is no reason that why privacy should be jeopardized in the benefit of economy. Yet, it believes that it needs to be limited by reasonable restrictions. So that is the view from Supreme Court of India. In that view, Supreme Court of India has passed, it has been billed, the Personal Data Protection Bill was tabled in 2019 in Parliament. And the idea was that Government of India constituted a committee of experts to study various issues relating to data protection in India and has drafted a data protection bill. Objective is to ensure growth of the digital economy while keeping personal data of citizens secure and protected. Coming to data management in medical research, in which we all contribute, generate, and do some sort of innovations, contributions, research in one or other way. We all know the mnemonic garbage in equals garbage out. So whenever you are planning a study or a research, it is essential that you take a lot of time in making sure at the start of the study that what all data you require. So at the end, good results come out. It is an important, essential ethical issue. Why? Because no matter what type of study one is doing, you are using resources, and that is taxpayer money. And individuals who are participating in your study, teams with whom you are working with, are put at some inconvenience or even risk. And if you don't get the details right, your data points are not valid, accurate, or you are compromising the ability to leverage the data that you have collected, or you are not able to publish or make certain definitive statements based on that data, at the end of the trial or study, you have not done it right. You have really done those teams you are working with and individuals who have contributed as volunteers a form of disservice. Because based on the funds spent and the time spent by you and other individuals, the community hasn't gotten the scientific benefit. So there are certain systems which are involved in providing healthcare. And these are like 5-6 systems. We all work in hospital setup. So these are 5-6 systems which are important data point to generate. So it is like journal administration, which deals with financial system, budget, expenses, procurement, disbursement system, human resource management. So that is all related to journal administration. So if you are looking to work on that, what kind of human resource issues are there in physicians, nurses, you will be taking care of this particular data point. Research administration. If one is interested in clinical trials, then there is institutional review board, which is supposed to be a data regulatory body. Then biospecimen management system. Third system is clinical operations, which are dealing with hospital admissions, registrations, billing system, bed management system, and risk management system in terms of injuries suffered by the physicians, or there is certain personal risk to the healthcare providers involved. Then fourth is clinical care systems, which include medical record or electronic health record and generally deals with the patient charting. Ancillary clinical system, which is mainly dealing with diagnostics and medications ordering, which involves pharmacy, lab services, and radiology services. Then departmental system, like in form of emergency department system, to track patients coming to emergency, their documentation, or operative services system, which are used for scheduling procedures and tracking those procedures. Then medical transport system, that what kind of medical transport referral services are used. In the last is data aggregation system. So initial all systems are generating data. The last in the list is aggregating data to convert it into information and some use to make things more efficient. So it could be in the form of electronic health record, patient portals, patient identifiable data resources, and de-identified data resources. And this is generally in terms of your, what is known as in the institution, what this body is known as medical record department, which aggregate most of the data. So what is the need? Need is of data management in medical research is that we want to optimize the resource allocation. We want to make robust clinical decisions. We want to monitor the quality of services provided. Element of precision medicine is getting strengthened, where we want customized care. We want to develop customized care to our patients and assessing the disease risk and predicting the prognosis. So these are essential reasons why we are collecting data, or why we are trying to analyze what all data is collected. So this is a picture which shows that how it operates. So data is getting collected at individual level, and we as researchers are using this data, and there is regulatory mechanism in form of institutional review board which provide us ethics permission. Then there are certain companies who are also collecting this individual data in form of certain devices or apps, and these companies either do it directly from the individuals or they collaborate with researchers, which you might know in terms of pharmaceuticals, vaccines, vaccine producers. So they all will collaborate with researchers to get the essential data, and there has to be data transfer agreement. Now when we talk about single researcher, there are certain things which a single researcher need to ensure when they are doing research in their individual capacity. One is that you need to be very well planned that what all data you will be collecting and how you will be coding it, because it is essentially the software which will be doing the analysis later. So at the start of the study only, you need to decide that how to code your data and how you will deal with the unstructured information which you scribble generally while talking to your patients or while making observation or while visiting certain facilities. That how you will take care of that information later on. Then Be consistent with the coding for all data collection instruments. So if certain, like if you are coding your intake of nutrition or intake of tobacco in a certain way, be consistent with all the questionnaires. Don't change it with every questionnaire because it can lead to a lot of confusion. Then do not rely on memory. Whatever you are coding, keep a code book and maintain an audit trail. What is audit trail? That whatever way you are adding your codes, you are changing it, you are doing whatever with your data collection, maintain a code book. And then generally what we do, we collect data in raw form, but we store it in calculated fields. For example, you might collect data in form of height and weight, but you will store it in form of BMI. Isn't it? That is a common way we do. But it is a very good practice to store data in raw form because many times cutoff changes. So in case you want to use your data 5 years down the line and the cutoffs have been revised by Indian Council of Medical Research or by international agencies, then you don't have the raw data. And then those data of BMI might be useful or might not be useful. Then you also need to consider confounding factors for the study from the very beginning. Because what might impact the results of the study, that has to be taken into consideration based on literature review from the very beginning. Very important to think about missing data. And one thing is to ensure that there could be definitely missing data when you are doing real world research. Real world research is messy. It takes into consideration lot of unaccountable factors, and therefore you need to know how you will take into consideration those missing data. Your missing data could be because of many reasons. Patient not responding, patient responding but not able to give you full information. Like you want them to remember about last time they were transfused with blood, but they are just giving you a vague answer in form of month or season. So whether it will be a missing data or you will note it. So all this thing you need to consider when you are planning and piloting your study. Further, for quantitative studies, it is important that you minimize the number of open-ended questions because it is difficult to analyze data later on if you don't have a consistent framework. So having structured questionnaire is definitely a good practice. Then how to deal with confidential data. We know by now that data confidentiality is a very sensitive thing, and Supreme Court and all over the world, people are becoming more and more aware of it. So how you will deal with the data and how you will maintain its confidentiality, you need to think well in advance. Especially when you're collecting patient identifiers, how you will secure the data, in what form it will be secured on hard drive, how your paper formats will be secured, so that no one can identify that data and no one can link the data to that particular patient. And HIPAA is Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It is functional in US. It has a nice set of 18 identifiers which need to be moved away from the data if there is any transfer of data is happening. With more and more multi-center research happening, we need to know that what all data we should not transfer to another agency because it can lead to identification of your patient. Now coming to data quality. So first thing we have already discussed that whenever you want to share your analysis or share your raw data, because as you might understand that now many journals, they want you to share your data. So there also you need to know that you have to de-identify the data and then only put on their portal or make it for public use. Then when you are dealing with a database, it has no actual quality or value. Like you cannot say that it is a good quality data or it is a poor quality data. The whole quality of data depends on the use which you are intending to make out of that. So the potential value is realized only when someone uses the data to do something useful. Therefore, it was told, or it is emphasized that from the beginning of the study, while you are planning the study, then only for every data element, just plan that how you will be using it. Then it is also important to look at your data in the context of how you plan to use them. And there are two broad factors or broad elements of data quality. Maintaining the completeness, that your data is complete and the data is accurate. These are broad ways to ensure data quality. When we talk about data completeness, as we have said that in the beginning of the study, when you're planning and you're framing your questionnaire, you need to think about the missing data and how you will be dealing the missing data, how you will be coding the missing data. For example, if you want to take blood pressure of a patient, so what will be missing data? Patient not present, blood pressure not measurable, blood pressure cuff not working, blood pressure cuff not present, or the blood pressure instrument not present. All will be missing data, but all will reflect certain different element. And if you are working on a quality study, or if you are working on some health administration study, then all this will reflect different things. So this is essential to consider that whenever you leave something blank, what is the reason for leaving it blank? And if you can make a note of it, right? So you need to design your forms to capture why the data is missing. When doing that, you will need to consider who is providing the information. So if you are talking to your patient and the patient is not responding, then who is the caregiver? Who is providing the information, and in what context they are providing that information? How it is entering into the system, whether you are having a paper format or you are having electronic data capture, all this need to be thought well and ensure that how you will maintain this data completeness. Because transferring data from paper format to software also can lead to having incomplete data at the end. Then it is a good practice to offer options in form of I don't know, not applicable, or decline to respond. So all this will account as missing data if you haven't thought of carefully. But these are three different responses. I don't know means patient doesn't know, not applicable means that question doesn't apply, and decline to respond means patient is not willing to share. But if you are not taking this into consideration, all will be collected as missing data. Coming to accuracy, capturing accurate data is a matter of asking right questions and in a right way. Again, while piloting your study, you need to see that how you will validate your surveys. Validation of surveys is generally done when you are taking already used instrument which has been validated in different setting, or you are piloting it. Then it is important to make allowances for approximate data, as if like you are recording the address of the patient. You are sitting in your OPD and you are recording the address of the patient. Patient might give you address in different forms. They might even give you PIN code number, or they will give you a rough idea, or they will just tell you this gully, this mohalla. So what you will miss, what you will record, this has to be considered well in advance. Because if you want a certain format, then just be clear that what minimum data items you will capture, minimum data items that you will be requiring patient to respond to. Then questions which rely on patient recall, they generally produce inexact answer. So what level of data ambiguity you will allow in your questionnaires? Try to capture the vagueness and don't force the data into artificial categories. Like we have seen in education, we generally force the data into artificial category, primary, secondary, senior secondary, college. So this is artificial category. The best thing is years of education, right? And then you may later categorize it. But initially, just try to capture the raw data in the best form which you can later on categorize. And if you don't have a data value, then capture that why you don't have a data value instead of leaving the field blank. Now coming to data quality. So how WHO or World Health Organization define data quality is the ability to achieve desirable objectives. So we want to achieve desirable objectives, what all we have framed in our study, using legitimate means. Quality data represents what was intended or defined by their official source. So for every data, you need to know what is the source document. Because at times, your funding agency might require source document verification. what are these source documents are objective, they are unbiased, and they comply with known standards. So if this thing is taken into consideration, it means that we are trying to ensure data quality. So this is a data quality monitoring framework. It is more of a theoretical concept at this point of time. And it is still not a very robust thing which has been implemented. Data quality monitoring framework requires data governance, data quality management, and it requires multidisciplinary team effort. There are two important areas to consider: quality control and quality assurance. So quality control is all your guidelines, your GCP guidelines, your clinical trial guidelines, your sponsor guidelines, all will come under quality assurance, quality control. But quality assurance is that operational things which you are doing on daily basis, weekly basis, that is quality control. Okay? So there could be mechanisms for quality assurance, but if you have not planned this while doing your study, or if you are not implementing this while doing your study, it will be difficult to assure quality. Then various ways to assure quality is through audits, having standard operating procedures, having manuals of operations, and restricting to your protocol. Now some discussion or some slides about electronic data capture, because now we are talking about digital India. So we all know that we are witnessing an exponential increase in the manuscript which describe electronic data capture and e-health initiatives. What is the hypothesis? That if we have better data, we can communicate it better to the resource agencies, to our sponsors, to our funders. They will have better information, there will be better access, and at the last, there will be improved health outcomes. Data collection has seen a revolutionary change in, say, last few decades. 1793, it was paper chart. In 1960, computers were introduced. 1990, everything was shifted to client-server based. 2012, we started putting our data on clouds. Again in 2012, a revolutionary change was Internet of Things. 2015, we are talking about big data analytics, and 2017, we are talking about blockchain mechanism. So it is quite a technology thing, which I'll not be dwelling in detail, but you need to know as a researcher that capturing of data is going through a revolutionary change. There are certain issues with every form of data capture. As we are all aware of the paper charts, that they can lead to incorrect treatment and deaths if the handwriting is not legible. It requires physical storage. They can susceptible to unplanned destruction, degradation, cumbersome to read, understand, and involves cost and time. So the transition to computer-based was very much welcome. But the limitation of this computer-based data storage is that medical records are generally managed by physicians. They are not accessed by patients, and they can at times, there could be a lag between physician examining a patient and noting it on computer. So it can lead to error. Then later came client-server based, where patient was totally pushed out of the system. Patient has almost no traceability that how his or her data is using. There were issues of security, privacy, and single point of failure. Further, cloud-based also has same issues where patient privacy was not ensured. Even in IoT, data security and patient privacy are major concern. Then coming to big data based, if patient identifiers are not taken into consideration, it can again lead to concerns of privacy of patient. Further, it is time consuming. The data aggregation is complex. The mechanism is complex and expensive. Now last in the list is blockchain based. Blockchain based is very new. It has been introduced in 2017. You might have heard of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. They are operating on blockchain based mechanism. It is one of the ways which people say, and they experience that there is some sort of decentralization happening, and the power is in the hand of consumers. But how it will revolutionize healthcare is yet to be seen. Now with all those electronic mechanism coming into play, The major concerns are related to risk of data security and privacy, data dictatorship, because physicians, the pharmaceutical companies, they hold the key to the data, and the main stakeholder, the patient or the community, they don't have access to it. They don't even know how their data is being used. Then the autonomy of the participants or patient is insufficient, and it can lead to increased social unfairness, as all your decisions are currently data driven. So a word about data privacy. So can we say, is privacy a universal right? Do you think privacy is a universal right? So at times it was debatable, like during COVID, it was told to everyone, to your neighbors, that you are COVID positive. Why? Because that time the social good or the larger good dominated over single person privacy. But at times it is debated when especially the research happens between developed and developing economies. When developed economy is the funder and they give money to carry out research in developing economy, and one of the Nuffield Council on Bioethics, they have said that whether researchers from developed countries, whether they are aware of the trust and respect developing economy participants place on them. Because in developing economies, the patient population, they consider their doctors and healthcare providers, they have certain trust and respect for them. So when the funding agency or the collaborators or the researchers, they are from developed economies, do they even understand that they are looked upon with same trust and respect, and they have certain accountability when carrying out their research in developing economies? So it is questionable whether researchers from developed countries are prepared for the enormous responsibility in terms of respect and trust people place on them, and it is an area where great deal of people and researchers are unaware of. So considering all this, it was decided and it was taken into consideration that personal data of citizens need to be secured and protected, and our innovation and entrepreneurship need to be data driven, but not at the risk of personal privacy. And IT Act 2008 has clearly outlined this, that a body corporate possessing, dealing or handling any sensitive personal data or information in a computer source which it owns, controls or operates, if it is negligent in implementing and maintaining reasonable security practices and procedures which lead to wrongful loss or wrongful gain to any person, that body will be liable to pay damages by the way of compensation. So whosoever holds the data will be responsible if there is an evidence that it leads to any loss or wrongful gain to the person involved. So that was as per IT Act 2008. These are few principles which were considered while planning data protection framework. It has to take into consideration all the new technologies that is coming into being. Then it has to have a holistic application, need to take into account informed consent of the participants. So even if you're doing electronic data capture, you cannot forego informed consent of your patients and participants. Then minimum data that is required to be collected. Don't invest too much that you will collect all form of data without having an understanding that what you will be using and how you will be using. Then whomsoever is collecting the data and controlling will be the person or agency responsible or accountable for that data. Then structured enforcement must be with a high-powered statutory authority, and there need to be penalties in case of wrongful loss or wrongful gain. So this is India's Personal Data Protection Bill. It has been drafted in 2019 and it was supposed to be adopted in 2020 Q1, but has been significantly delayed, and it is still not, it hasn't come into force. But there are certain key elements which we all should be aware of. First thing is what type of data it aims to protect. Personal data. Personal data is data about or relating to a natural person, and it is identifiable directly or indirectly in form of name, contact detail, address, educational detail. Even certain categories of data are put under sensitive personal data, which are financial data, biometric data, genetic data, health data, official identifier, sex life, intersex status, sexual orientation, transgender status, caste or tribe, religious or political belief, any other data categorized as sensitive personal data. So all these data need to be de-identified before considering the transfer of data. Then, in case of non-compliance, there are strict penalties in form of 15 crore INR fine or 4% of the organization total annual worldwide turnover. So it is a very good amount, and it shows that India is getting strict about data privacy. It can also lead to imprisonment for 3 years or a fine of INR 2 lakh for both re-identification and processing of de-identified personal data. And there are like different forms, so it might vary depending on the corporate body, depending on the individual, the fines may vary. And it involves all data controlling agencies, social media is under its purview, and this is one of the strongest approach where India is trying to protect data privacy of their citizens and their patients. So this is all related to data management in medical research. Thank you for your patience listening. Any questions?